Gentlemen, here's the truth about luxury watches after 40. Most people can't tell a real Cartier Tank from a well-chosen alternative, and they don't care. What they notice is proportion, restraint, and confidence. Your watch should communicate taste, not your tax bracket. Let me show you how. Most men either chase logos they can't afford or settle for watches that cheapen their look. If you're here, you're different. You understand intelligent choice. You're a useful elder. Subscribe and stay sharp with me. The Cartier Tank's appeal is real. It's graced the wrists of presidents and artists for over a century. That rectangular elegance, those clean lines, it represents timeless sophistication. Wanting one makes complete sense. But here's what matters. The silhouette communicates class, not the signature on the dial. After 40, sophistication is about how a watch wears, not what's stamped on it. These aren't compromises. They're deliberate choices by men who understand presence over prestige. That's intelligence. Here's my filter, rectangular or tank-style case, proportions that work on a dressed wrist, finishing you can see without a loop, and all under $2,000. Every watch here passes the boardroom test and the dinner test. Let's begin. Let's start where intelligence meets accessibility. These first 3 watches prove you don't need 4 figures to command respect at the table. Watch number 1. The Casio MTP E150. Price point, around $220. Now, before you dismiss this as just a Casio, look at what they've done here. That's a proper rectangular case with beveled edges that catch light exactly like higher-end dress watches. The dial is clean, applied indices, not printed. The date window sits at 6 o'clock where it belongs, maintaining symmetry. And here's what most men miss. The case finishing has multiple textures. Brushed on top, polished on the sides. That's a detail you see on watches 10 times this price. The leather strap it comes with is decent enough to get you started, but swap it for a quality dark brown or black leather band, and suddenly you're wearing something that photographs like a watch 5 times its cost. The status inside here? This watch says I understand proportions, and I'm confident enough not to need a logo doing the talking for me. When you're at a business lunch, and someone notices your watch, and they will, because rectangular watches draw the eye, they're seeing discipline and taste, not desperation or flashiness. You're signaling that you make considered choices in every area of your life. The quartz movement means it's accurate and low maintenance. After 40, you don't need the hassle of constantly resetting mechanical watches unless that's genuinely your hobby. This just works every time you put it on. Watch number 2, the Timex Marlin reissue. Price point, around $200, sometimes less on sale. Timex brought back their 1960s Marlin design, and they got it right. This is a 34mm cushion case. Not quite rectangular, but that vintage-inspired shape gives you the same elegant wrist presence as a Tank. The champagne dial with gold-tone markers creates that warm, sophisticated look that photographs beautifully in any lighting. Here's what makes this special: the domed acrylic crystal. Modern watches use sapphire, which is scratch-resistant but flat. Acrylic domes slightly, giving the watch a vintage warmth and character. Yes, it can scratch, but those scratches polish out with a bit of polywash in 30 seconds. That's not a flaw. It's a feature that keeps the watch feeling alive and personal. The hand-wound mechanical movement is smooth and satisfying. There's something grounding about winding your watch each morning. It's a small ritual that centers you before the day begins. You're not checking your phone. You're not rushing. You're taking 15 seconds to engage with a physical object that will serve you all day. The status insight? This watch communicates, I appreciate design history, and I'm not chasing modern hype. When you wear this, you're showing you understand that good design is timeless, not trendy. You're the man who buys quality furniture that lasts decades, who maintains his car properly, who invests in things that age well. That's a signal of maturity and wisdom that resonates deeply after 40. The Marlin works equally well with a suit or a casual button-down and chinos. It's one of those rare pieces that never feels out of place. Watch number 3, the Orient Bambino Small Seconds. Price point, around $300 to $350. Orient is one of those brands that punches dramatically above its weight. They're owned by Seiko, but operate independently, and they build their own in-house automatic movements. That matters because you're getting Japanese reliability and finishing at a fraction of what you'd pay for comparable Swiss pieces. The Bambino Small Seconds has a rectangular leaning cushion case with a small second subdial at 6 o'clock. That subdial, is crucial. It breaks up the dial visually and adds mechanical interest. It shows this is a real watch, not a fashion piece. The applied indices have depth and dimension. The hands are heat-blued steel that shifts from deep blue to black depending on the light. These are details that watch enthusiasts notice and respect. The automatic movement means it winds itself as you wear it. No battery changes, no manual winding unless you haven't worn it for a few days. It's mechanical craftsmanship you can see through the exhibition case back if you flip it over. There's something satisfying about seeing those gears and springs working in harmony. The case proportions are elegant without being fragile. This isn't a watch you'll baby. It's robust enough for daily wear while maintaining that dressed-up aesthetic. The leather strap is surprisingly good quality for this price point, with proper stitching and a deployment clasp option on some models. The status insight here? This watch says I know the difference between value and cheap, and I have the confidence to choose wisely. You're not wearing a fashion brand that spent more on marketing than manufacturing. You're wearing a serious watchmaker's entry-level piece, the kind of watch that gets knowing nods from actual collectors who recognize quality when they see it. This is the watch for the man who does his research, who reads reviews, who understands that the best choice isn't always the most expensive one or the most advertised one. It's the educated choice. And that education, that wisdom, that's what people read on your wrist. All three of these watches share something crucial. They prove that after 40, your taste and judgment matter infinitely more than your budget. Each one delivers visual sophistication that reads correctly in professional and social settings. Each one will draw compliments from people who notice details. And each one positions you as a man who makes intentional decisions, who values substance, who understands that real style is about knowledge and confidence, not price tags. These aren't starter watches you'll outgrow. They're legitimate pieces you'll reach for regularly, even if you later add more expensive options to your collection. That's the mark of a truly smart purchase. It remains relevant and useful regardless of what else you acquire. Now let's move up a tier. If you're still here, you're thinking differently than most men, evaluating merit, not marketing. Hit subscribe and like if this approach resonates. You're a useful elder. Now we're entering territory where craftsmanship becomes noticeably refined. These three watches represent a significant step up in finishing, movement quality, and brand heritage. This is where your investment starts speaking a more sophisticated language. Watch number 4, the Hamilton Bolton. Price point, around $750. Hamilton has genuine American heritage dating back to 1892, originally supplying precision timepieces to railroad workers where accuracy meant safety. Now Swiss-owned but maintaining that American design DNA. The Bolton is their direct answer to the tank-style dress watch. The case is a true rectangular form with sharp, architectural lines that create visual drama on the wrist. The lugs curve gracefully downward, crucial for comfort because straight lugs on rectangular watches jab into your wrist. Hamilton understood the assignment. What elevates this in a mid-tier territory is the dial execution. Applied Arabic numerals with multiple finishing techniques, polished tops, brushed sides. The railroad-style minute track is printed with precision. The leaf-style hands are proper heat-blued steel, not painted blue. There's a depth here that photographs can't capture. The movement inside is an ET-based Swiss automatic, visible through the exhibition case back with Geneva-striped rotor decoration. That level of finishing at this price is uncommon. Most brands would use a solid case back and pocket the savings. The Tank similarity is obvious. Vertical rectangular case, restrained proportions, classic elegance. But the Bolton has slightly more masculine dimensions, making it work better on wrists over 6.75 inches. The perception insight? This watch communicates, I understand legacy brands and value engineering provenance. When someone who knows watches spots a Hamilton Bolton, they recognize genuine horological credentials. You're not chasing fashion. You're respecting craft tradition. This is the watch of a man who's read beyond the surface, who appreciates that American watchmaking history matters. Watch number 5, the Longines Dolce Vita. Price point, around $950. Longines carries real weight in watch circles. Founded in 1832, they occupy the elegant classical position in the Swatch Group portfolio. The Dolce Vita, Sweet Life in Italian, has been in their collection since 1997, quietly becoming iconic. The rectangular case is perfectly proportioned, neither too tall nor too wide. The curved sapphire crystal adds vintage warmth without acrylic's fragility. Dial options range from silver to black, with Roman numerals or Arabic indices. The sword-style hands are impossibly thin, creating negative space that makes the dial feel larger and more refined. What you're paying for at this level is finishing consistency. Every edge is properly chamfered. Every surface has intentional texture, brushed, polished, or grained. The crown screws down with perfect resistance. These tactile details seem minor until you handle a watch at this level. Then everything below feels slightly imprecise. The Swiss automatic movement is regulated to tighter tolerances than entry pieces. Better timekeeping over a week. Longer power reserve. Smoother winding. These aren't dramatic differences, but they're real, compounding into a superior ownership experience. The tank connection is clear. Iconic rectangular form, Roman numerals, refined aesthetic. But Longines brings Art Deco elegance rooted in European heritage. This feels slightly more formal than a tank, which actually works in your favor for certain occasions. The perception insight? This watch says, I'm comfortable with understated luxury and don't need recognition for people who don't know. Longines isn't a brand civilians recognize immediately, but anyone with watch knowledge respects it deeply. You're signaling membership in a more discerning circle. The man who appreciates quality that doesn't announce itself. That's a mature position that resonates powerfully after 40. Watch number 6. The Seiko Prestige SRPB 43. Price point: around $550. Seiko's Prestige line showcases what Japanese watchmaking achieves when focused on dress watches. The SRPB 43 features a subtly curved rectangular case, sharing the tank's elegant proportions while adding distinctly Japanese sensibility. The defining feature is the dial, a stunning sunburst pattern shifting from deep blue at the edges to near black at center. It's created through traditional technique requiring multiple layers and hand finishing. Under different lighting, this watch transforms completely. Fluorescent office light gives rich navy. Natural sunlight brings purple undertones. Low light turns it nearly black with subtle shimmer. The hands and indices are mirror polished, creating sharp contrast against the textured dial. The date window at 3 o'clock is properly recessed with a matching blue date wheel, a detail many brands miss by using white wheels that disrupt dial harmony. Inside is Seiko's 4R35 automatic movement. Their proven workhorse caliber, accurate and serviceable. The exhibition case back lets you watch it work. The case finishing shows Seiko's commitment. Zaratsu polishing, a Seiko-developed technique creating distortion-free mirror surfaces, is applied to case sides. The brushing on top is directional and consistent. The lugs taper elegantly. This attention at this price is exceptional. The tank's similarity comes through in overall proportions and formal aesthetic, but filtered through Japanese design language. This feels simultaneously classic and contemporary, Western and Eastern, a hybrid that works because both traditions value restraint and precision. The perception insight? This watch communicates, I respect craftsmanship regardless of geography, and I'm secure enough to wear Japanese excellence anywhere. Some enthusiasts harbor outdated biases about Japanese watches being inferior to Swiss pieces. Wearing this signals you're not bound by old hierarchies. You evaluate on merit. You appreciate that Seiko pioneered quartz technology and continues pushing boundaries. That's the mindset of a man who leads rather than follows, who forms his own opinions. These 3 watches represent the point where you're no longer just buying timekeeping. You're investing in refined execution, lasting materials, and design intelligence. Each will age gracefully and serve you reliably for decades. This is where thoughtful men often find their sweet spot. Enough quality to satisfy, enough value to feel smart. Watch number 7. The Frederique Constant Classics Carry. Price point: around $1,400. Frederique Constant is relatively young. Founded in 1988, but they've earned serious respect by doing something rare, producing in-house movements at accessible prices. Most brands at this level use third-party movements and mark them up aggressively. Frederique Constant builds their own. The Carry, French 4 square, measures 30.4 millimeters by 25.3 millimeters, which sounds small until you understand rectangular watches were larger than their dimensions suggest. On the wrist, this presents with the visual weight of a 38 millimeters round watch, but with far more character. The dial is where you see premium positioning. This isn't printed, Its multi-layer construction with genuine galoche patterns hand-turned on traditional rose engines. Galoche is the art of engraving repetitive, precise patterns into metal, a technique dating back centuries. Under direct light, these patterns create a shimmering effect that flat dials cannot achieve. Each dial takes hours to produce. The Roman numerals are applied and individually polished. The blued steel hands are shaped like traditional brigade poem hands with circular counterweights. These represent manufacturing choices requiring significantly more time and skill than standard production. Inside is Frederique Constant's in-house automatic movement. Not modified or rebranded, genuinely designed and manufactured by their engineers. The rotor is skeletonized and decorated. The movement bridge has pearlage finishing. You're looking at mechanical architecture demonstrating watchmaking competence, not just assembly. The tank parallel is evident in vertical orientation and classic restraint, but the carry feels more consciously Art Deco, more deliberately vintage-inspired without becoming costume Jew. The perception insight? This watch declares I invest in things built properly, and I appreciate when companies prioritize craft over marketing. Frederique Constant doesn't sponsor Formula One or celebrity ambassadors. They spend resources on manufacture capability. Wearing this signals you've done the homework. You understand that in-house movements at this price represent extraordinary value. You're the man who evaluates companies on actual output, who recognizes that newer doesn't mean inf. Watch number 8, the Oris Rectangular. Price point, around $1,800. Oris has built mechanical watches in Switzerland since 1904, maintaining fierce independence. No conglomerate ownership, no quartz production, purely mechanical focus. The Rectangular revives designs from their archives with modern execution. The case is substantial stainless steel with multiple finishing techniques visible in a single glance. Top surface vertically brushed. Sides high polish. Lugs transition from brushed to polished mid-curve. This mixed finishing requires multiple manufacturing steps and careful masking. Labor-intensive work you see at this tier and rarely below. The dial offers striking options. Lacquered black with applied rose gold indices and hands. The contrast is dramatic without being garish. A small second subdial at 6 o'clock adds mechanical character and visual interest. The typography is period-correct Art Deco, geometric, confident, unapologetic. Ally bold. The movement is Celita-based Swiss automatic, but Oris regulates and finishes it to their specifications. The exhibition caseback reveals Oris's signature red rotor, instantly recognizable to enthusiasts and more efficient than standard rotors, winding the mainspring with less wrist movement. The sapphire crystal has multiple anti-reflective coating layers on both sides. The dial appears almost floating with zero glare, even in harsh sunlight. Reading time becomes effortless in an Y condition. The tank's similarity emerges in vertical rectangular case and formal dress positioning, but Oris brings more assertive, less aristocratic personality. This feels Swiss-German rather than French, precise, robust, engineered for longevity. The perception insight? This watch announces, I support independent manufacturing and value integrity over trends. In an industry increasingly dominated by mega conglomerates, Oris remains family-owned and philosophically committed to mechanical watchmaking. Choosing this signals your values extend beyond the product itself. You care about how things are made, who makes them, and whether those makers maintain principles. That consideration marks thoughtful, principled men. Watch number 9. The Tissot Heritage Banana Centenary Edition. Price point, around $1,950. Tissot's Heritage Banana faithfully recreates a 1916 original, one of the first purpose-built wristwatches designed to curve along the wrist like never before. The nickname Banana comes from that distinctive curved case, revolutionary in an era when wristwatches were essentially pocket watches with wire. Lug soldered on. The case is dramatically curved, not just front to back like modern watches, but side to side. It wraps around your wrist with sculptural quality that's completely unique. Despite being 47.5 millimeters long, it wears comfortably on smaller wrists because the curve distributes length along your wrist's natural arc rather than jutting beyond it. The dial is vintage recreation, creamy enamel effect finish with printed Arabic numerals and railroad minute track. The hands are heat blued steel in classical fife shape, leaf style with tapered points. a small second subdial at 6 o'clock positions within the curved geometry. Everything is proportioned to maintain visual harmony despite the unconventional canvas. Inside is manual wind mechanical movement based on ETA's 6498, a legendary caliber known for reliability and serviceability. Manual winding at this price is actually a feature, not limitation. It's thinner than automatic movements, allowing the case to remain elegantly slim. The daily winding ritual becomes intentional connect. Tie in with the watch. The sapphire crystal is shaped to match the case curve, a complex manufacturing challenge requiring custom tooling. Case finishing is impeccable. Brushed surfaces flow into polished bevels with precision bearing close inspection. The Tank connection is tangential. Both are rectangular dress watches from early wristwatch era, but the banana takes a completely different architectural approach. Where the Tank is flat and architectural, the banana is curved and organic. The perception insight? This watch proclaims, I appreciate design innovation, and I'm confident enough to wear something distinctive. This isn't a watch that disappears. It's a conversation piece, a historical artifact made contemporary. Wearing this signals you understand watch history, you value design bravery, and you're not constrained by conventional aesthetics. You're the man who owns interesting furniture, who travels to unconsidered places, who reads outside his field. That intellectual curiosity and aesthetic confidence is magnetic after 40. These three represent the upper boundary of rational luxury. Beyond this, you're increasingly paying for brand prestige rather than proportional quality improvements. Here, you're getting meaningful value, better materials, superior movements, lasting construction, while entering the realm where your watch becomes legitimate heirloom. These aren't just accessories. They're artifacts you'll pass down. Watch number 10. Vintage Seiko Tank alternative from the 1970s. Price point varies wildly, typically $400 to $800 depending on condition. Here's something most men never consider. The vintage market offers extraordinary rectangular dress watches that predate current enthusiasm for this style. Seiko produced dozens of Tank-inspired models throughout the 1970s and early 1980s. Many sold primarily in Japanese domestic markets, with model numbers now obscure. What makes these compelling is their authenticity of era. These aren't reproductions. They're actual period pieces that have survived decades. The patina on dials isn't artificially created. It's genuine aging. The slight wear on case edges tells a story of actual use. You're wearing a piece of horological history. The design language is distinctly 1970s, slightly more geometric than earlier decades, with stronger lug angles and bolder indices. Many feature champagne or silver sunburst dials that have developed a warm, creamy tone over time. The applied markers often have subtle discoloration, adding character rather than detracting from value. Inside, you'll find Seiko's robust mechanical movements from that era, often the 6309 or 7009 family. These movements are legendarily reliable. Parts remain available. Any competent watchmaker can service them. You're not buying something fragile or unsustainable. The challenge with vintage is condition assessment. You need to verify the dial hasn't been refinished, the case hasn't been overpolished, and the movement functions properly. This requires either personal knowledge or purchasing from reputable vintage dealers who guarantee authenticity. But here's the reward. You'll own something genuinely rare. While everyone else wears current production, you're wearing something that can't be replicated. No one else at your table will have your exact watch. That singularity has value beyond the monetary. The perception insight? This watch communicates, I have the confidence to build my own aesthetic rather than following current trends. Vintage collecting requires knowledge, patience, and willingness to accept imperfection. Those qualities signal maturity and independence of thought. You're not waiting for brands to tell you what's elegant. You're discovering it yourself. That's the ultimate expression of personal style after 40. Watch number 11. Baltic Rectangular. Price point, around $750. Baltic is a French microbrand founded in 2017, building a devoted following by doing one thing exceptionally well, creating vintage-inspired watches with modern reliability at honest prices. Their rectangular model is their interpretation of 1930s dress watch aesthetics. The case is deliberately thin, just 8.2 millimeters including crystal, because they're using a manual wind movement. This thinness is crucial. It allows the watch to slide under dress shirt cuffs effortlessly, maintaining that elegant profile that thick watches destroy. You feel the difference immediately when wearing tailored clothing. The dial design is masterful restraint. Railroad minute track. Simple batten indices. Leave hands. No date window interrupting symmetry. No unnecessary text beyond the Baltic name. This is design confidence, knowing when to stop adding elements. Baltic offers multiple dial variations: silvered, salmon, and navy blue. The salmon dial is particularly compelling, a warm, vintage-inspired color common in 1930s and 1940s watches, but rarely seen today. It's distinctive without being loud, unusual without being weird. The movement is a Miyota 8N24, Japanese manual wind caliber, known for reliability and thin profile. It's not extensively decorated, but it's honest and functional. The small second subdial at 6 o'clock gives that smooth, mechanical sweep. The strap is genuine shell cordovan leather, exceptionally dense, long-lasting material that develops rich patina over years. Most watches ship with cheap leather needing immediate replacement. Baltic includes the upgrade standard. What makes microbrands compelling is the value equation. Baltic isn't paying for retail distribution networks, massive marketing campaigns, or legacy costs. They sell direct, passing savings through. You're getting material quality and attention to detail often seen at twice the price. The perception insight? This watch declares, I discover quality before it becomes mainstream, and I support businesses doing things properly. Microbrand collecting signals you're ahead of trends rather than following them. You're the man who found the restaurant before the Michelin star, who invested in neighborhoods before gentrification, who recognizes potential before consensus forms. That forward-thinking perspective is valuable everywhere. The Tank similarity is obvious in rectangular case and vintage aesthetic, but Baltic brings slightly more casual, accessible personality. This works beautifully in creative professional environments where overly formal watches feel stuffy. Watch number 12. Kurono Tokyo Chronograph 2. Price point: around $3,000 initially, though the secondary market varies. I'm including this despite exceeding our budget because it represents something important. What happens when a legendary independent watchmaker creates his interpretation of rectangular elegance? Hajime Isaoka is one of the most respected independent watchmakers in Japan, possibly the world. He spent years creating one-of-a-kind pieces selling for six figures before launching Kurono Tokyo to make his design philosophy accessible. These watches release in limited quantities and sell out in minutes. The Chronograph 2 is a rectangular chronograph, extremely rare currently. The case proportions are perfect, substantial enough to house the chronograph movement while maintaining elegant lines. The pushers flow naturally with the case shape rather than jutting awkwardly. The dial is where Isaoka's artistry shows. Hand-mixed lacquer in deep teal or burgundy, applied in multiple layers and polished to mirror smoothness. The subdials are perfectly balanced. The hands are steel with polished bevels catching light dramatically. Every element is considered and refined. The movement is based on Seiko Mica Quartz hybrid, mechanical chronograph functions with quartz timekeeping. Before dismissing this, understand the advantages: chronograph precision, instant reset, and thin profile impossible with purely mechanical chronographs at any price. Isaoka chose this specifically for those benefits. What you're buying is design vision from a master. Isaoka's pieces appear in museum collections. His work influences other watchmakers. Owning a Kurono means owning a piece from someone at the absolute peak of his craft. The challenge is availability. These don't sit in stock. You enter a lottery for purchase opportunity. Missing the release means hunting secondary markets where prices fluctuate. The perception insight? This watch announces, I recognize greatness regardless of traditional hierarchies, and I'm willing to work for what I value. Kurono ownership requires effort, research, timing, persistence. That effort signals commitment to excellence over convenience. You're not walking into a boutique pointing at a display case. You're engaging with contemporary horological art. That level of engagement marks someone who treats life as a curator, not a consumer. So how do you choose? Start with honest self-assessment. If you're building foundational style on a practical budget, the Casio or Timex gives you immediate credibility without financial stress. If you wear suits daily and need something that commands respect in traditional business environments, the The Longines or Hamilton delivers that authority. If you're weekend-only formal and want something special for occasions, the Oris or Frederique Constant justifies the investment through emotional satisfaction. If you're beginning to collect seriously and want a piece with genuine horological value, focus on in-house movement. Here's what separates men after 40. Insecurity needs the logo. Self-knowledge chooses the silhouette. Every watch in this video delivers the same elegant presence as a Cartier Tank because they understand the same truth. Excellence doesn't announce itself. It simply exists, noticed only by those worth impressing. That's the standard. Now your watch is handled. But there's another detail most men over 40 get completely wrong, and it's costing them respect every single day. I break down exactly what it is in the next video. If you haven't subscribed yet, do it now. You're a useful elder. Don't miss what's next.